A wonderful way with dragons, to not spoil the film, there's not a dragon in the film,
Right.
but how does that tie in with the theme, and what made you want to title it that specifically?
So I was very inspired by Eastern culture's definition of a dragon or the dragon, and this being the definition of chaos. And for me, I think that the children are enduring chaos, and so some of them more wonderfully than others, but I enjoyed the idea of each having a wonderful way with chaos and how it affects them and how they affect each other by what they're enduring, I suppose.
Your film has some really heavy, really intense themes to it, and I'd love to hear more about that and kind of what inspired you to create this film.
That's a great question, and I'll start with the fact that I wrote the script during the pandemic when the fragility of society was at its height. For me, I was reading a lot of T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, which was written right after the fall of World War I, and of course the collapse of society and all of the knowns in society that kept everything moving together. I saw a parallel between that and the possibility of writing a script that included a small society of children, not far away from Lord of the Flies feeling, but it was much more associated with what I was reading at the time, which was a lot of Hans Christian Andersen. Peter Pan is probably the most significant that I would attribute the script, the film to. And of course, The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot. So the biggest theme I would say is isolation and how that affects this group. And it severely affects children. As we know, children are affected by isolation much more severely than adults because their prefrontal cortex is not yet formed, and therefore they have cognitive deficits that occur. They start seeing things that aren't there. They start not believing people. They start not knowing what is imaginary, what is real. They start hearing voices. So I think for me, it was very important to tread a line and try to understand what is real and what is imaginary in terms of each character, and then how each character affects each other with how they manage isolation, I suppose is the right way to put it.
And then speaking of working with kids, I mean, your job as a director, it's to get the best performance out of your actors as you can.
Yeah.
But then especially when they're children, it's like wrangling all of them and working with them, and maybe they don't quite have the emotional bandwidth to maybe process certain actions that you're giving them. What kind of difficulties presented themselves with working with children, and how did you kind of overcome that, and how did you work with that?
For me, I didn't really care how long it took, but what mattered to me was that they each felt that they could fall out a window and I would catch them. That it didn't matter how many times they did it, it didn't matter what they were told before, but what was important was mostly that there is no wrong way to do anything. And whoever told you that before is wrong. You can start in a place that leads you to this extraordinary place in the film in terms of performance, and it might have been, oh wait, I wanted to start out of the gate with this perfect performance, and it just doesn't really work that way. I mean, the way that we function as humans, it's more like we find our way through a maze to get to places, and it's the journey that is the destination, not so much just I got to hit this on the first strike. Working with children was really important to me because I feel that they can sense, I don't mean to swear, but they can sense nonsense, they can sense bullshit. So if you vacillate, if you don't give them a very direct line of, here I am, you can look to me, you can ask me anything, you can trust me, then they're not going to trust that they can give their full performance. They're going to hold something back. And for me, what you instill into them is bring something of yourself into the character. And you were absolutely cast because I can see that you can do that. So let's bring something of yourself into the character because it creates a balance of reality, brings a balance of like what is real here into the film. And so that line becomes a little blurred. And I feel like then they go home and they're like, oh, now I'm Donnie Masihi. No, now I'm Nikki. Oh wait, who am I? And I think that's actually a success.
What do you want audiences to walk away with after they watch your film? What do you want them to feel? Obviously, you're not telling them what to think, but what do you want them to be processing? What do you want them to come away with this?
Well, I think that that would fall back to what we were just discussing about Margaret Mead. She would often propose what endures and what fades in a civilization, one that is ended, one that is continuing. I would like audiences to decide for themselves what is endured and what is faded. And I think that will be different for every person, but in my view, that something that is so much akin to today's society, what I think has faded in this film becomes truth. And that is because each child is affected by isolation. They don't know what is real and imaginary. We don't know what is real and imaginary until we get really to the very end of the film, or maybe toward the middle of the film. And I think that's, for me, that was at the heart of what was driving the entire script, the entire story, was understanding that truth was going to fade. And maybe for me, dreams endure. I would say, that could be seen as positive or negative because dreams are, in the great words of James Baldwin, the inner life is a real life, and the intangible dreams of people bring tangible effects into the world. And I think that can be seen as a beautiful thing or a frightening thing. If dreams are the only thing that endure and truth fades, what line are we walking? Where is the blur? Are we on the right side or the left side of the line? It's hard to know when what is endured is dreams and what has faded is truth.
Mother, are you the blue in the forest wind? The river is red, Mother. The day is a hunted thing.
How long has she been like this?
What's going on? Wake up! Tell me exactly what you saw. I just walked past the window and I saw that she fainted.
You need to understand that the rain is finite. Do you know what that means? It means it's scarce. It's our only pure source of water. Are you intact? Are you still pure?
You're saying some things that don't make any sense. There is no virus. There's no such thing right now.
Why are we still doing this?
What do you mean?
We're just wasting this water.
This is the ritual.